people who have left the church, by and large, have heard about all they need to hear from us. If they're not coming to church, it's not because they haven't heard something. It's because they feel that we haven't heard them. You know, at least I know that's how I felt. You know, I felt like the church just didn't get me. They wanted me to go to church. They wanted me to go to youth group, you know, when I had fallen away. But was anybody concerned about the fact that I went home every day and was miserable, and the fact that I was eating myself to death and that I was lonely? You know, I felt like there was just such a huge disconnect on the part of church for that. And when I left, I began to reinforce my leaving with a whole bunch of different beliefs. And some of that had to be straightened out. Some of that had to be straightened out by effective catechesis and good theological teaching. But those things didn't get me to come back to church. What got me to come back to church were people who loved me and who reached out to me and listened to me. It wasn't what they said. In fact, it was exactly the opposite. It was what they didn't say. It was the fact that they cared enough about me to close this big hole under their nose and open up their two ears and say, hey, what's going on? It was about a Catholic priest who reached out to me at 500 and something pounds, sitting on a couch that I would break weeks later, and said, hey, who didn't say, hey, you know what, you need to go on a diet, big boy, because you know what, that would have been a newsflash. I didn't know. I was wearing a 6X shirt and a size 64 waist. I didn't realize I needed to go on a diet. Thank you, Father. No, he didn't say that. You know what he said? He said the exact opposite. It would make people's heads spin. He said, hey, let's go get a T-Rex pizza and a pitcher of beer. Well, I couldn't say no to that. And, you know, if we really want Catholics to come home, then we've got to be asking ourselves the question, what are we asking them to come home to? Not a textbook, not the UCAT, not the catechism, and not even the Bible necessarily. And I know that sounds heretical and that you're ready to light this video on fire, okay, and burn your computer at the stake because my big bald head's on it. But they've got a Bible, probably, or they have access to a Bible. Then what they want is the Eucharist in you. What they want is to see Jesus in you. If we're asking Catholics to come home, whether it's a banner or an ad or a website or whatever, then we've got to be asking them to come home to a person. We've got to be asking them to come home to a non-judgmental heart and a non-judgmental person who cares more about listening and who cares more about connecting and who cares more about that individual who's coming home than they do about any agenda. We're going to reach the 90% of Catholics who are leaving the church after confirmation and after they graduate from high school. Then we've got to learn how to use this and less of this.